What was your first job, Aimee?
Gosh, my first job.
Yeah.
Like my first actual job
Your
where I got a
first job where you
paycheck.
got like a real paycheck, not like babysitting, although that could have been that was my first lucrative job. But when did you actually get a paycheck from somebody?
So I was probably like 14 and I started washing dishes.
For who?
So it was this local like ice cream shop and they had like burgers and french fries and I used to have to walk to work and walk home. This was in upstate New York, so walking through snow at 10 o'clock at night and just like, you know what, I want that paycheck. I want the freedom.
You were a dishwasher.
I started as a dishwasher, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I like it. How about you, Amanda?
I worked at an ice cream shop, scooping ice cream.
Yeah.
That's a cool coincidence.
Yeah. So
but you were a scooper.
I was a scooper, yes. And yeah, it was good fun.
And where was that?
In Michigan. I'm originally from Michigan.
Ice cream scooper, ice cream dishwasher. So if you're dishwashing ice cream place, you were serving like Sundays or something? Or you said the burgers and fries?
Yeah, it was like a little burgers and fries kind of shop, and they were known for their ice cream.
Ah. I don't have an ice cream job. I would have been so cool if I would have said my first job was ice cream, but no, I painted my dad's office. Like,
there you go.
The summer hire kind of thing. I was also 14 and painted a lot of Army emblems in the conference room. But it was a good paycheck. I made $5 an hour.
There you go. There you go.
So today on the podcast, we have Aimee Johnson and Amanda Parrish. Aimee Johnson works on our team in government relations. She is the division manager for economic development. Amanda Parrish is moonlighting right now as interim CEO of the Bradenton Area Economic Development Corporation. But Amanda, that is not your permanent role. What else do you do here in the community?
That's correct. So my full-time job is I'm a partner in the COO at Folly Bryant Architecture. Been there for almost 10 years.
That's awesome. We love partnering with Folly Bryant. They're an incredible partner to the county. So I want to just kind of kick it off. This whole episode, we're going to be talking about economic development because it's been top of mind for the county, especially with the April 7th meeting. We just reestablished a contract with the Bradenton Area EDC. Yes, I think that's a kudos. It's definitely been a lot of collaboration over the last 6 months. But just to back up in that, Manatee County is growing fast, and we know that. But a lot of time when we talk about growth, and it's not only just about building things, right? It's about what's at stake for the community, our workforce, and more. So, Aimee, you are the expert here at this table on economic development, especially compared to Amanda and myself. What is economic development, and why should residents care about this industry?
That's kind of a loaded question. So I think you hit on something there. It's not, economic development isn't necessarily about, when people hear the word growth, they think expansion. We're going to get bigger. But sometimes growth just means like personal growth, right? And if you kind of relate it back to psychology, you can think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all have basic needs that need to get met, and we're moving towards like self-actualization, being the best version of ourselves. And that's really what economic development is about. It doesn't mean expanding. It means finding areas that you're really good at and lean into those, and find areas where you could maybe improve or become more efficient.
Exactly. And so in your education, I know you have a psychology degree, also master's in economic development too. So tell us, that's an interesting combination. How does that play out, with this?
I see it in the way that we nurture small businesses, the way we really focus on resiliency, especially being located where we are. We do go through hurricane season every year. In our roadways, making sure our roadways are safe and efficient, in our relationships with our stakeholders, making sure we have really good partnerships and everyone has a voice at the table.
So building on that, what in the county does economic development mean? Like, what is your role and how does it work? What would most residents probably not know when it comes to, we have this economic development division. What do you do all day? And what are you looking for in terms of opportunity?
So what we really do is we receive feedback from the commissioners, from stakeholders, from residents, and we're using that feedback to really guide policy and drive changes that you see in the community. None of this happens in a vacuum. It's really a team effort, and it's multidisciplinary. And I think that's what a lot of people miss about economic development. It's not just about handing out incentives or creating jobs. It's really understanding a community comprehensively and as an ecosystem. You have to think about workforce, education, businesses, your transportation, childcare, all of these things, quality of place that make our region and our county a great place to live and be, and somewhere that people can thrive and grow. Mm-hmm. That's really what economic development is. It's everyone at the table.
That's right. And the way the county is structured right now, there's a lot that we don't do in-house. And that's why we have had a partner traditionally do that additional work. So maybe to tee up, what is it that sort of are the lines of like what the county staff does versus what we've hired and outsourced to the Bradenton area EDC?
Sure. So right now we're a small team. It's myself and Vanessa Muchnick, who is our economic development coordinator. And what we really do on a daily basis is process those applications for economic development incentives, making sure they're matched correctly, making sure that they're administered and paid out properly. Mm-hmm. So we're dealing with a lot of inbound leads, but what we lack the capacity to do as a two-person team is to really be proactive and go out and search for those opportunities and bring them back to the community. And that's where the EDC really steps in and helps us.
Absolutely. And so that kind of brings me over to Amanda, what this moment, and I'll kind of just walk us through some of the things that have happened. Last September, the board decided not to renew the contract with the Bradenton area EDC, and there was no further direction. However, economic development didn't stop. We still had requests. We got a lot of things that actually happened between September to up to date now, right? So we were kind of left in a situation where, well, what do we want? But the commissioners did give a lot of feedback. So bring us up to speed about how you got involved and maybe what it's been like the last couple of months.
Sure. So the last couple of months really has been a lot of learning on my end, but it's been a lot of fun and an amazing opportunity to look a bit higher level than I typically operate as a small business owner, and really start to learn how all of the dots are connected in the county. As Aimee was alluding to, economic development is such a team sport. So understanding how all of these amazing organizations and players come together to allow Manatee County as a whole to become economically resilient and diverse, and make sure that we have an amazing community for our existing residents and for new people that want to come in, and for our kids that hopefully ultimately come back here. So the last 3 months has been a lot of learning for me. I'll be completely honest. But I think what I was tasked to do when I came in as the interim CEO was to really work collaboratively with you guys on creating an agreement for economic development through the EDC in partnership with Manatee County that was very transparent and based on very clear metrics and really speaking to that attraction arm of economic development. So we work with our target sectors, and we go out and actively recruit companies that will provide high-wage, high-skilled jobs to the residents of Manatee County.
Yeah.
And therefore, it increases our tax base, which allows the county to do amazing things here from an infrastructure standpoint, and just allows really quality of life to go up for everybody within the county.
What is an EDC? So, Aimee, maybe in your experience, maybe can talk about our model and maybe what are some other varieties out there?
So the way Manatee County does it is, like I said, we have a two-person team. We mainly handle the policies and programs, monitoring and administering those. And then we have the EDC, which is our Economic Development Corporation. They are a private nonprofit, which means they are a nonprofit, but they are funded through private donations. They have investors that represent local business leaders. So traditionally, the way that model works is you have your private money and your public money, but they all work together to fund an agreed upon initiative. They set goals and targets that they're trying to achieve. And they're identified not only by the county and residents, but by business leaders.
Right.
And then you pool all of your efforts towards meeting those goals. And I mean, the model is similar all over the country. Some places will have an IDA, an industrial development agency, or an LDC, which is a local development corporation, but they all really work similarly, and they're all based on that public-private partnership.
And Amanda, in the presentation you gave before the board, you talked about an ecosystem. So I'm sure a lot of people might be wondering, like, what's the difference between the EDC and, say, the chamber? Like, why do we need both? And I know the EDC originally, a long time ago, was actually part of the chamber. So how would you explain that to your average citizen of what roles each of those play?
So it's a good question. And as I was kind of on my listening tour in this interim role, I got that question a lot. How are you different than the other organizations? And so I just went and I asked the other organizations, like, what is your primary value, and where do you see the EDC's primary value? And Jackie over at the chamber gave a great definition, and she said, in short, that the chamber really works on the product, making sure that Manatee County has a pro-business environment, that businesses here have the resources they need for their young professionals to grow, for continuing education opportunities. The chamber has an advocacy arm, and the EDC does not. So when they will advocate in Tallahassee for pro-business policies that really help us recruit companies here. And a lot of those policies that they may be advocating for, we help inform the chamber based on the trends that the EDC is seeing in our BRE visits or in some of our conversations with business leaders in the community. So they're different because they're working on the product. The EDC then comes in and we market the product. So we go out and find businesses that would really benefit from coming into a community that has an award-winning chamber. And the chamber is also very good at catering to that small business, maybe the businesses that don't hit our target sectors. So the EDC is very focused on those target sector industries that are ones that tend to create that high-skilled, high-wage job.
So we talked about target sectors. What are some of them, and what should people know? Maybe they don't know what they are here in Manatee County. What are we most proud of or looking for?
So target sectors are kind of tricky. I think for a long time we were basing what our target sectors are based off of state guidance in terms of what they saw in the state of Florida. I think if you asked residents or business owners here, they might have a little bit of a different take. But if you look at the community, you can see that aviation, aerospace, manufacturing are very strong. Obviously, we're a tourist economy. That's always going to be our number one. From that, we have a lot of services, service-based economy, healthcare, education.
Sports performance.
Sports performance is huge. That's up and coming. So a lot of our targets are really organic. They're things that naturally occur here because this is the right place. And Manatee County provides them everything that they need to grow. And then there are some things that we do go out and target. To Amanda's point, we're targeting manufacturing, we're targeting aerospace, we're targeting, defense companies, clean tech, things that will help us keep some of our younger residents here. So if they stay here and go to college, or they go away to college, they can come back and get that great entry-level job that will hopefully turn into a career and keep them here.
Yeah, it's so much more than just getting the company. It's the workforce, like you said. It's the education. And last week, on April 8th, we held a workshop about economic development, and we had some really interesting professors from University of Florida, Dr. Nathan Pilardi. I'm curious of your takeaways from that conversation, and because he's kind of getting into what you were just saying and making some observations that our board should know. And so I was just curious, what were some of the highlights for you?
One of the really interesting things he pointed out is if you look at our target sectors or our existing businesses and compare that to the actual workforce, manufacturing is such a very small portion of it. A lot of our workforce comes from those small businesses, and not just smaller businesses, but mom and pops. And I think that speaks to our tourist economy. So we have a little bit of a dichotomy where everyone wants to attract those manufacturers because they come with a lot of jobs, right? And they span different ranges of the workforce and experience level. But I think it would be a mistake to not count how important it is to nurture those small businesses, the entrepreneurs, the mom and pops, because they have the opportunity to grow. And they would create a great success story for Manatee County, a business that started here, grew here, expanded. So we don't have to go out and do the attraction. We can just nurture what's already here.
I think that's another area where the EDC becomes a pretty valuable partner for the county. So part of our agreement is to do the retention of existing businesses here, and we call that our BRE position, business retention and expansion for local companies that exist here. And again, while we focus on those target sector companies, we really offer those resources to every single business in the county. And we make it our business to go out and meet with those business owners and make sure that they're aware of, the different incentives and programs and awesome opportunities that the chamber has going on, or Career Source Suncoast does an apprenticeship program to help with their talent pipeline. So I think that is another area where the EDC can kind of walk in parallel with the county and support the initiative of making sure that those smaller businesses are cared for and given the resources they need to be successful.
Yeah. I'm curious, based on the discussion in the room, both from the presenters and the board and the community, where do you see some alignment maybe coming out of some of those suggestions with the workshop?
The thing that I really found the most interesting about the workshop was the 4 waves of economic development. And for you economic developers in the room, that was probably elementary stuff. But for me, kind of just learning all of this.
Me too.
First wave was recruitment. So that's EDC. That's exciting. That's what we do. Second wave is retention. Same thing. That's EDC. That's what we do. Third wave was really talking about the making sure that you're creating, I'll use the word ecosystem again, but a competitive advantage, really. So what are the groupings of industries that you can start to create an ecosystem so that they continue to grow collectively? And then the fourth wave, which was my favorite, was really placemaking and focusing on the quality of life and making sure that businesses, when they come here, they are able to sell to their team members, like, this is an amazing place. You should all be really excited about this expansion or relocation, whatever it may be, and really how that ties into how the county needs to think about incentives. How are we incentivizing childcare, or what are we doing around the elder care conversation? How do we make this transition for companies easy to sell to their team members
That's right.
coming in? So I think the alignment is coming in. That workshop was based originally to talk about incentives and make sure that Manatee County is competitive no matter what wave of economic development we're talking about. So when we're thinking about a strategic plan, how are our incentives going to discuss or point to each of those waves so that we can be competitive on multiple levels?
Yeah. I loved what he said, that we're seeing no longer our people just following the job.
Loved that.
They're picking the place and then expecting the jobs to be there, or they're creating their own. And so it becomes even more important for our communities to be a place that attracts people to want to start the thing, or, build the thing, or bring the business or industry to our place. So what are we doing, right, is kind of what I was thinking, and I could see the wheels of many in the room's minds turning. Like, what are we doing to really make this a wonderful quality of life? Because it's not just about attracting the big company name. It's even before that now. And, even my own example, I'm like, oh my gosh, my family is an example of this. We chose this place, and, and my husband started a business. It was because we wanted to live here. And for, all the litany of reasons that was important to us, then it's like, okay, how do you make this work? And it wasn't in other places because this place had what we felt most desirable offerings. And so when you do start talking about investing in trails, or investing in schools, or investing in education, or business-friendly policies, it does matter, because people are making life decisions of where they want to be rooted, right? And it's much more so since the pandemic, it seems. I found that really interesting. Some hard questions surface too out of this. And, Aimee and team are in the weeds of how do we, constantly stay competitive. But I'm curious, what are some hard questions that are facing the board right now that you're helping bring to light and that they'll need to vote on?
I think top of mind right now, obviously, based on the renewal of the contract and our workshop, is our economic development incentives. Our package hasn't been reviewed in about 6 years, and the county and certainly the country as a whole was a lot different 6 years ago. And the model then was really just paying for jobs, incentivizing companies to come here, start a business or move their business here and create jobs. But when you do that, you always run the risk of the company coming here just for the incentive or because it was more competitive, more attractive than another location. And they come here and they realize, well, maybe this isn't a good fit. Right. And then they leave. So you lose the jobs, the opportunity, and the incentives. So one of the big challenges right now is how do we take a hard look at our economy, our community as a whole, and make sure that we are right-sizing and right-fitting our incentives to meet all of those 4 waves and to really make sure that we're attracting the right types of companies and industries and opportunities that are just a natural fit here, or they're going to stay and they're going to flourish.
Yeah, it's true. And so maybe help the average listener understand when we have incentives, what do we mean by incentives? What's an example of some of the incentives we offer companies today?
Sure. So some of the incentives we currently have are a job creation incentive, and the way that is structured is a company that comes in and creates a minimum of at least 10 jobs. That's our qualifier. Based on the jobs that they create and how far above they are the average annual wage, we would pay them a percentage per job. So $1,000, $2,000, $3,000
per job.
Per job, correct. And then we have other incentives. If that job is created in the Southwest District, there's an incentive for that job creation. If that job is held by someone who lives in the Southwest District, there's an incentive for that. We have some impact fee reductions, permitting reimbursements, rapid response. I mean, there are really a lot of financial incentives, but where we kind of are struggling is like in that second and third wave. So I think we have some work to do in focusing in that area. We do a really good job of bringing the companies here and helping them get started. But beyond that, how are we making sure, to Amanda's point, that this is a place where people really, really want to stay?
Another big topic was, opportunity zones. And so what are those, Aimee?
Opportunity zones are essentially census-designated tracts that are experiencing a high level of really persistent poverty. And the Opportunity Zone program was started in 2017, 2018, and what it did was create a federal program around those opportunity zones. And the incentive was deferral of capital gains, right? So if you find a property that is located in an opportunity zone, and it can be commercial, residential, mixed use, and an investor comes in and says, I want to redevelop this property, they can defer their capital gains on that investment for a number of years. I think it's 10 or 20 years. So the whole point of this program was to sort of promote redevelopment and infill to those downtown areas, to those legacy areas, and prevent urban sprawl.
Amanda, on your listening tour conversations where you're talking to businesses, what were some of the major themes? What were the things that you keep hearing, or is there any patterns that stood out that you think would be helpful for people to know about in Manatee County?
So most of what I heard on my listening tour fell into 2 buckets. It was either what we just discussed. How are you different than the other organizations? What's your value proposition? What are your service lines? How do you help me? And then it was a lot about our contract. What metrics are you being reviewed on? How do you guys communicate that? How do you make sure that you remain a good partner?
So tell me more, if the community is asking those questions now, because you've worked really closely with the EDC staff, and now you're in the process of selecting a new CEO, what are the things that, they're prepared to respond to, or what are some things maybe they've even actioned on already that can continue to build that confidence?
Sure. So internally, when we hear the feedback of we want to make sure that the metrics are clear and transparent, I automatically go to internal accountability metrics. So the teams worked really hard on coming up with an internal scorecard about, how many BRE visits have you gone on this week, so that week over week over week, we're hitting our monthly goal and then therefore hitting our quarterly
goal. And BRE,
goal.
these are businesses you want to either see retained or expanded upon.
These are visits to our existing businesses in the county. That's correct.
So boots on the ground, pounding the pavement.
Boots on the ground, correct. Yeah. For our investor relations team member, how many calls did you make this week? How many in-person meetings did you have? Just making sure that the activity and the presence is felt and massively across all of our partners and investors.
That's great. Because so most people would not be familiar that one of our main changes in the new agreement that we have with the county is a scorecard. So a concept of a scorecard is not new by any means, but I'm really curious to both of your perspective with considering where we landed. Why are you really proud of this? Why is this going to work, and why do you have confidence in it?
I think what I'm most proud of and grateful for is the whole idea behind a scorecard is that it is a leading indicator. It is a tool to drive conversation. And I'm grateful because you guys came to the table willing to make that the format to make sure that we're being successful. So a scorecard is not to say like, hey, month 1, I missed my metric, you're fired. It's why? Tell me why. And if it's month 2, you also missed that metric. Now we're starting to see a trend, and we can start to really look at, well, is it a frequency issue? Are you not making enough calls? Are we not getting enough leads from the state? It forces you to dive into the trend that you're seeing and solve it before it becomes an emergency. And so I think what I'm proud of is that the framework for performance is built around collaboration. And I think that's how and when everybody starts to win.
I agree. There's something about public-private partnerships, right? There's something about the county is not equipped today to do this on their own and relies on the private sector to fill some of that gap. Now, there's things that the county will always own because the incentives are authorized by the Board of County Commissioners. They have to be managed. It's county money. It's taxpayers' money that are funding this, right? But this place of how we do it and how can we get better and how can we take community member input and business leaders here who know what right looks like. And even the simple idea of a scorecard is actually elevating government, and we're collaborating in a way that I think the public would be really proud to see, because it's not just how many calls did you make today? You were talking about an internal metrics for your team, but this is, maybe Aimee, you can talk to some of the specifics that were added. Why were those important, you think, to the county's performance?
Yeah, we added a lot of metrics to the contract, and I think for me it comes back to transparency and being that that good fiduciary of public funds. And it's not necessarily to hold anyone to task as much as it is, sometimes economic development gets a bad rap, and a lot of people don't necessarily understand it. They're not exposed to it on a regular basis. So creating that scorecard allows us to have some sort of metrics that we can report on publicly. We can post them in a public forum, and people would really understand them, and they would see the work that's being done and what it actually costs. And it's not easy work. It's not necessarily inexpensive work, but I know that that's the function of the nonprofit sector. Government isn't made to be good at everything. We can't be good at everything. We're too big to be nimble sometimes, and that's what nonprofits do. They step in where governments sort of fail to close that gap. And I'm really proud of these metrics because I think it also speaks to the collaboration, but how willing everyone at the table was to really get this done and get this done right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add overall, I think the process of going through that was fun. And I think it's reflected in the outcome in the unanimous vote is they could feel the collaboration that was already creating momentum. And again, when you're working with people that you trust and you're having fun with it, the outcome, it follows. And that was a really great process.
What have either of you seen, just in your time in the last couple of years as a resident, as in your work, that you see economic development show up in daily life? What's something that people maybe aren't seeing, but it's something that actually is tied to the work you're doing?
I see it everywhere, and I think my kids are probably so tired of me pointing it out. But, just this morning I was driving past the 44th Avenue Bridge. I mean, that's economic development. All the walking paths, the bike lanes, drove past MTC, all of the apprenticeship programs and opportunities for our young students to find different pathways if they aren't interested in attending college. The small businesses opening up down the street, attending the farmers market on the weekend, that's all economic development.
I'm part owner in an architectural firm, which is directly related to economic development. If new businesses aren't coming here, aren't incentivized to come here and work with small businesses that are already in existence in this county, we would be in trouble. And so economic development directly impacts the success of my business.
Absolutely. And so what would you say if there is someone listening right now who's thinking about either starting a business here or moving a business here, maybe thinking about leaving? What would you tell that business owner about Manatee County and current economic development?
I think it's a really positive time to bring your company here, grow your company here, keep your company here.
Why?
There's so much positive momentum amongst the people that are driving the organizations that create economic development for Manatee County. So there's alignment between you guys in the EDC. There's alignment between all of the other nonprofits.
The chamber. There's so many resources here. And this is still not so big like Tampa, where you get lost in a sea of other companies, trying to edge out competitors. There's still a ripe opening for people to disrupt and do it here locally, because the thing about Manatee County is people love to support local. They really, really do. And they have this pride, I think, in the things that are rooted here.
I agree, yeah. And I think what Manatee County does really well is we know who we are. We know what we're good at. We're interested in being better, but not necessarily growing. And when you look at other areas, maybe, western states or the Northeast, out west, they're very land rich, and they're growing at incredible pieces. They're just growing, and a lot of their institutions are having a hard time keeping up, and that can be disruptive for businesses and residents. And the Northeast, they're in redevelopment.
Right.
They're already built out, so that's
Right.
a whole other challenge. But when you look at Manatee County, we're sort of just happy. We have everything we need. We have our great jobs, our great industries, our great outdoor activities, and we're really hyper focused, I think, on making the best out of what we have. I feel like everyone agrees we don't really need to change everything or anything at all. Obviously, people are moving here in mass numbers, so we're doing something right.
Sure.
But I think it's that collective mindset of this is a really good place. We don't need to necessarily grow or change, but how do we be the best version of ourselves?
I think the word intentionality comes to mind. There's a lot of intentionality around the economic development happening in the county. It isn't growth for the sake of growing. It is focusing on those target sectors that can help us grow strategically and bring in the jobs that we need for, to elevate that quality of life. And it is realigning our incentives and having the tough conversations to make sure that, those businesses are compelled to come here. And from a timing perspective, I just feel like, doors wide open and everybody's kind of looking at everything with fresh eyes and trying to put together this amazing package that is really going to benefit business owners.
Right. So speaking together of that package, and the EDC is constantly focused on what is that package and really making sure it's a community of business owners. What's up front for the EDC? What's next? I know you're selecting a CEO, as you mentioned, but what's ahead, and where is your focus right now?
Yeah, great question. So we are very focused on selecting the permanent CEO. That decision should be made here relatively quickly with them in place by June. So with that in mind, next up is the strategic plan. So our strategic plan will start in January sometime next year, early next year. And that is really where we, with a fine-tooth comb, start to comb through, like, are these target markets still working for us, or are there new opportunities for us to be successful? So the EDC is really, it's going to gear up. We're going to onboard our new CEO, and then we're going to gear up our strategic plan to make sure that we can hit the ground running. I think the whole thought behind an interim was so that a new CEO can come in and pretty quickly get into strategic thought mode versus, fix mode or going on the listening tour. I've kind of gathered that information for them, and now they're able to take that and run with it.
Yeah, no, I've watched you the last couple of months, and what I really admire about you, Amanda, is the ability to just come in, like, it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. I want to talk about what's happening right now. You came in, you've organized things that maybe needed a little bit more attention. You've asked really open questions to get people to open up and share feedback that perhaps that hadn't been shared before. And then best of all, you've actioned it. So this ability to get things done in an incredibly humble way has been really wonderful to work with. I know the commissioners all appreciated you reaching out to them individually, collecting each of their individual feedback. All of that was addressed in the board meeting, and it's nice to work with partners who actually listen to what you say and then they do something about it. So I think at the county, this is a really exciting moment to look ahead to the future with this new contract and really tap into this extension of us, because as Aimee said, we're doing everything we can with the existing applications, with the ones we know about, but gosh, there's so much that we don't know about that we want someone there making sure Manatee County has a chance.
Yeah.
And that's where the EDC comes in.
Well, I appreciate that feedback, and I'll just say never in my life have I felt more supported by the entire community. I really felt like I feel like the last 3 months, the EDC has been able to manage this transition, not because of one person, but because literally the community started to stand up and support that one person and answer the hard questions and have the tough conversations with me and put trust in me to listen and
Execute.
create action. So while I appreciate the nice words, I'm so grateful for everybody for taking the meeting with me and being willing to allow us to hear and reflect and get better. And it really is a very exciting time for the EDC.
It sure is. It sure is. That means it's time for our lightning round. So these are very either or, would you rather, which one type questions. So don't think too long about it. Just give the first answer. Are you ready, Aimee? Are you ready, Amanda? Okay, here we go. All right. Incentives or no incentives for the county? What do you say?
Incentives.
Okay. Would you rather have a big corporate headquarters here in Manatee County or 100 scrappy homegrown startups? Startups for Aimee.
I would say headquarters.
Okay. Would you rather have a ribbon cutting or a spreadsheet providing the ribbon cutting was worth it?
Ribbon cutting.
Do we need a industrial park or a downtown storefront?
Downtown.
Opportunity zones, are these hidden gems or buzzwords with paperwork?
Hidden gems.
Can I say both?
Ooh, controversial. Okay. A site selector calls you, and then a local business owner was next. Which gets answered first?
Simultaneously, we have 2 team members.
Ooh.
Same.
Okay. More jobs or more housing? Which keeps you up at night more?
More jobs.
I would say more housing.
What is one thing you'd ban from economic development jargon forever?
I hate hearing the phrase. That's too hard. We can't do that.
For me, it's all still jargon, so I'm trying to figure it out.
You're like, I think I need all of them.
I'm like, I'm not sure.
I think for me, smart growth is becoming very, very contextual and not like I don't automatically know what the person means or which side of the fence they are. So smart growth would be one for me. All right, 2 more. If economic development had a mascot, what would it be?
That's a tough one.
I mean, the first thing that came to my mind was an eagle, but now I'm real embarrassed. I have no idea as to why.
Because we soar.
We soar.
I was thinking like She-Ra, but then I think I just aged myself.
Oh, that's a
Like
funny
He-Man?
one.
and
He-Man,
She-Ra?
yeah. I'm going to ask you, can she do the He-Man call? I think can you do that?
I don't know what it is.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, last one. Fill in the blank. Manatee County's next big economic win will come from
Partnership.
I agree.
partnership. I love it. Well, that is it for this episode of Chambers, Changes, and Conversation. I want to thank Amanda Parrish and Aimee Johnson for joining us on this very thoughtful conversation about the future of economic development in Manatee County. This is a really important moment for our county, and these conversations matter because it does take partnership, indeed, and vision and strategy, and hardworking people like yourselves. So, thank you for that, and thank you for listening. If there is a topic that you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. But until next time, from the county seat and on behalf of the men and women who do work that matters, I'm Stephanie Garrison.
Aimee Johnson.
Amanda Parrish.
And make it a great day to live, work, and play and prosper in Manatee County.
The opinions expressed by guests of Chambers, Changes, and Conversations do not necessarily reflect those of Manatee County government or its employees.